Good evening. I'm Valentina Castellani-Quinn. Welcome. It is a dream to see you all in here in the name of world peace. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dick Simon, Chair of the Peace Action Network, YPO.
Well, thank you. First, I want to start by thanking Valentina for inviting me here and for her Herculean efforts to make all this happen. And when you really think about what Valentina has pulled together and created for everyone and the incredible movie that it is, another round of applause, please. She's amazing. And thanks to all of you for being here. So I'm going to try to answer this seemingly really simple question. Why? How is it possible that this problem hasn't been solved yet? It's not just a real estate problem. As I mentioned in the movie, I've done real estate. I've done hundreds, probably thousands of deals. So it's not just real estate. The real problem comes down to the most dangerous four-letter word. This is and we've learned this, Bobby and I, through this organization, the Peace Action Network that we created, bringing business leaders together in intimate groups, making a difference. So we have this dangerous four-letter word, which is at the root of all of the problems that we're dealing with today. Once you have them, you know everything. You stop thinking. You don't have to ask questions. Your stereotype fills in every blank. If I'm Israeli, I don't need to know any more about Palestinians. I know everything I need to know. And similarly, if I'm Palestinian, why would I have to think about it more? I have all of my answers. This image helps describe what happens. So I was doing a photo exhibition of my work, and friends came up to me and chastised me. Why are you spending time with terrorists? And I'm like, terrorists? What are you talking about? Well, this man wearing a kafaya, or an Arab headdress, was automatically deemed, if he's wearing a headdress, he must be Arab and he must be terrorist. That was the them in her mind. Actually, he's a Bedouin entrepreneur. We stayed with him. His name, Abdul Salam, means servant of peace. But he was labeled a terrorist. And he was labeled a terrorist because of something that psychologists use called the Rorschach test. It's an ink blot that's used, and you bring everything that you believe to it. So people will look at this ink blot, and some will see love and connectedness, others tearing apart and separation. But it's just a random blot. We do this with everything. We then go about looking to confirm whatever it is we believe. So if we have strong feelings one way, we only seek, see, and hear what we expect and want to find. It's what psychiatrists and psychologists call confirmation bias. We'd love to blame media. It's all the fault of media. But really what media does is they just act as a mirror and as a magnifying glass for what we already want to believe. So this massive themification creates this huge problem on this one rock. What themification leads to is fear. We've heard a lot about fear this evening. Sometimes fear is very reasoned. If you're out in the jungle and you're worried about a lion, or in the savannah, becoming fearful is a wise move. But frequently, fear is just false expectations appearing real. And we react to that. We're actually hardwired in our brains. There's a little part called the amygdala. Whenever we're fearful, it protects us. It's designed to help us with that lion. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to observe the pretty color of the lion. We just want to get out of there. But what that means is you stop thinking. So you're basically turning off all of your brain once fear takes over. This is what happened to me. I was with my family. At the time I was in Syria before the war. And here I am, I go talking about them, and I'm this wonderful, everybody should get along. But I heard chanting. It was in Arabic, and I don't speak Arabic. So immediately, I was triggered by my own fear. Maybe we should get back to the hotel. This could be dangerous. What's going on? It could be a demonstration. But I was also curious. So I went closer. And I learned that the chanting was actually singing in a promotion for giving chocolate for Mother's Day. So instead of fear, I ended up hoisted up on people's shoulders joining the celebration. So we know how important hope is, but the problem is hope is often replaced by lies. Now, the lie I want to talk about is probably the most important barrier to creating a solution on this one rock. That lie is that it's always been like this. It's always going to go on. The lie is, the truth is, that conflicts always end. Bobby had mentioned Germany and Russia. Well, Germany and the United States, Germany and all of Europe are now close allies, notwithstanding horrific history in the Holocaust. After Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, America and Japan are again close allies. Conflicts end. Vietnam, a horrific thing in which America lost 58,000 people, the Vietnamese over 500,000. That conflict is over, and Americans are there, and Vietnamese and Americans are doing just fine. Now we get one here that's all about religion, because religion allegedly creates all the problems. Religion and real estate, Northern Ireland, a completely intractable problem, never gets solved. Sound kind of familiar? Now largely resolved. And in Africa, under incredible leadership, Mandela avoided what could have been horrific bloodshed after terrible oppression and terrible problems. That conflict gets passed. And then finally, Bobby had mentioned Rwanda. 1 million people were killed, slaughtered, hacked to death by their neighbors and family members. And yet now, they're past that conflict. So conflicts end. At some point in history, maybe it's soon, maybe it'll take a while, people will look back at this Israel-Palestine conflict and just look at it as, why didn't they just fix it? But it's important to keep that in perspective today. So back to our rock, in Jerusalem, in conflict. What you see depends upon your perspective. These are either soldiers there to protect and bring security, or occupiers and oppressors. It's the same people in the same picture. And it all comes down to forgiveness. Forgiveness and a willingness and desire to move past trauma and go forward. It all comes from individual stories. Once you begin to know the other as an individual, it starts to become much easier to have bridges, to get past them. To take them to us. We do an exercise in these forums called In the Other's Shoes, sort of developing a parallel narrative. So just to give you a sense, try to imagine you're in a forum, you're 15 people, half Israeli, half Palestinian. The idea is that you repeat back in the first person what you've just heard from the other side. So try to imagine a Palestinian repeating back what he had just heard from his Israeli forum mate. I came out of the cafe, heard a loud explosion, and I saw my brother-in-law's blood and body parts all over the street. At that point, the compassion that Bobby was referring to and that is so important is there. You're feeling it. And then the Israeli is knowing that they've really been heard. Then the Israeli might share, it was late at night, the soldiers broke down the door, stormed in, humiliated me in front of my family, and we had done nothing wrong. So all of a sudden, a necessary security incursion or a freedom fighter begins to be looked at in a very, very different light. So the key to all this is the 4 C's, if you will, to be conscious of when there's themification going on. To be curious, what's really behind what's going on? What's really in that story? Why are they doing that? Being compassionate to others, and then challenging. Every time, a concrete baby step that's incredibly important is any time you hear themification, stereotypes, preconceived notions being used, challenge it. From your friends, from the media, wherever it may be, challenge, challenge, challenge. So remember also, There is no them if you know them. So there is no them once the other becomes a fellow human being. Thank you very much.